Now, this is a 3-hour documentary, okay? This is called Martial Law 9/11 Rise of the Police State. This is actually a documentary from 2004 in which he goes down, I'm talking Alex Jones, goes down to the Republican National Convention when it was held in New York. All right, believe it or not, when it was held in New York, and he documented how many protests were out there. Because remember, folks, this is what I find very discombobulating. And this is the reason why I want to show you this. Because the protesters that were once leftist and anti-Bush and anti-war and all this shit are now the same people praising Bush because he's anti-Trump, praising Romney because he's anti-Trump. I mean, this is how just bad the Trump derangement syndrome has gotten. So with that being said, and let's go ahead and take a look at it. All right, here it is. We're not gonna play all this. All right, I'm just gonna play a good portion that'll give you an idea, because what he was documenting, this was in 2004, New York City, when the Republican National Convention was in New York City. All right, here it is. Ready? Here we go. Hopefully everybody can hear
traveled
it.
to New York to see the elite in action, but what we chronicled shook us to our very core. We were witnesses to the elite's ideology, to their mindset, their vision, their philosophy, and the martial law system that they are constructing, not just for the American people, but the population of the world. We're just right outside the security perimeter at this national security event in New York City, just a few hundred yards away from Madison Square Garden, where in just a few hours, they'll be starting up the official coronation, Skull and Bones coronation part 2 for John Kerry's cousin, George W. Bush,
And
right
by
here in
the
New
way,
York.
when he's not kidding. Alex Jones is absolutely not kidding. George Bush Jr. and John Kerry, believe it or not, he was the candidate in 2004, are cousins, and they're both Skull and Bones fraternity. Now, if you don't know what Skull and Bones fraternity is, let's just put it this way. There's only 13 people that are tapped to be a part of the Skull and Bones fraternity at Yale, and that's 13 people a year. What are the odds that two Skull and Bones pricks are, running against each other for president and being cousins? All right?
York City. We'll chronicle the police state, the surveillance blimps, the sound wave cannons, and we'll discuss 9/11 with New Yorkers by traveling to Ground Zero and find out how many of them are questioning the official story that has holes in it that you can fly a 747 through. You were saying that a lot of people aren't on the street now. What percentage of New Yorkers have left town? 50% have left? Are New Yorkers? We'd been in New York about an hour before we were threatened with arrest for having our video cameras in the subway.
Any one of them. May I ask you what you're doing, sir?
Okay, will you tell me again so I know what to do?
I'm not telling you what to do.
No, ma'am.
That's all I am telling you is that you got cops climbing out of... Okay,
no,
you have a convention and you have a terror alert in this city. Yeah. Okay.
Well, tell me so I know what to do.
I don't know what you should do. Have a nice time.
Okay,
you want 34th Street.
Welcome to New York.
Okay, any train here will take you to
Welcome to New York.
34th Street.
We were then threatened a second time with arrest for filming on the New York subway. And a woman who was separate from our group had her film camera taken, smashed, and the film destroyed. The footage you're about to see was shot clandestinely as the police took action against us.
I gotta talk to her because she took a picture. You have
I can't get arrested. I can't.
Let's not shed a tear over this now. Why are we playing games?
John, you're a witness to what just happened. What did we do?
We took a picture of a homeless person, felt sorry for her, and gave her some money. and then we were promptly almost arrested by Port Authority police in a subway.
Well, I kind of agree with that, dude. You know, my grandma said, "Don't feed the stray animals, son, because they breed." And in that context of a homeless person, they're not going to breed. They're just going to tell their other homeless, and you're going to get a whole stack of homeless looking pathetic. Hopefully they get some sympathy bucks, you know?
The police have been arresting reporters across the city, and a judge had ordered them to stop, but that just seemed to encourage them.
Take him out. How about we go to whoever gave those to you and get them revoked? I just asked you to do me a favor and not tape over here.
It's my fault, sir. I'm his boss.
No. Listen. First of all, I'm talking. I don't need you to interrupt me while I'm
New
all right?
York,
Okay.
dude.
And I just got finished telling him that I don't want him taping over here. Nicely to go over to the island. Were you here when I said that?
No, I was.
So why are you interrupting me now?
I said it's my fault.
How is it your fault if you're not here? All right?
How about we just leave? We'll just.
That would be a great idea.
Okay.
Why don't you leave?
Okay.
New York, man.
Did you get that? Oh yeah.
I've almost been arrested 3 times every day, anywhere in the city videotaping anything. It is an absolute nightmare. Hey guys, get your cameras on. Okay, let me get, well, number one.
Hey, we're allowed to be here.
Folks, this is martial law.
Sir, how many police were in New York?
40,000?
That's a huge army.
It is.
I think we need more police. There's not enough police. Maybe we need 100 million police. How about 50 cops for every New Yorker? How's that sound?
No, it's a little bit too outrageous.
Now, I want to be honest with you. This was during a time in which people in mass were protesting. This was the RNC, the Republican National Convention in New York. And we've gone from a bunch of people protesting to now riots, looting, and violence. You know what I mean? And, you know, you would think if you were going to cause an uproar at any point in time, it would have been during this fucking time when George Bush was sending us to the War of Civilizations, okay? But no! Let's go ahead, kill a bunch of people, riot and loot under the guise of some abstract concept called racial and social justice. Very f***ing great. This is our public education at work here.
A few months ago, they had a new fake terror alert. Later, they had to admit it was fake, claiming that a couple of Muslim guys were down here trying to take photos and video of all of this because they wanted to attack it. And they said it was a brand new threat, but it turned out that it was over 4 years old. And then when we got here to New York for the convention, they busted 2 guys who supposedly were going to go after the subway. And then in that case, too, it turned out that that was fake, that wasn't real. But all of these are used to scare the population into submission and as a pretext to up the police state and the despotism. Straight out of The Running Man, right here in New York, we have police state surveillance blimps that are sponsored by Fujifilm. This is only the beginning. In the future, every major city will have a high-altitude blimp tethered to a cable with ground-penetrating radar that looks right through your walls and gives the government a black and white image of the inside of your home. This entire war on terror is truly a pretext to launch a military-industrial complex takeover of the entire society. Everything is now...
And let me tell you, I hate to say, but Alex Jones was always right. The problem is that this, back in 2004, was nothing. Now they don't even need blimps. Now that you've got cameras everywhere, I don't know if you understand that these new LED lights that are being installed in the neighborhoods, they've got microphones in them. I mean, you've got your cell phone that's able to tap into whatever the you're saying. You've got these stupid devices called like Alexa and all this other shit. Did y'all know that Alexa called the cops during a heated argument between a couple because they said some bullshit to each other, and Alexa on its own called the cops based on the words that were being said? Anyway, I'm just saying that this guy was absolutely correct about a surveillance state and the military-industrial complex taking complete and total control of our government.
Now going to shift into prisons and surveillance and security. We're going out of the free market economy into the fascist economy. The elite has used socialism to consolidate the people's wealth. Now that it's under their control, they're going to phase out all of the programs for the population, and it's all going to corporate welfare. This is the new America. Sound weapons, police in black ski masks with automatic machine guns, and yes, helicopters swarming around surveillance blimps right here in New York City. And only in the new corporate fascist America would we have a blimp for police state purposes that is sponsored by a major company. And we found out that Fuji gave free bikes to all the police, and guess why? They sold the U.S. government and a bunch of different city governments, or trying to sell other city governments, these high-tech imaging systems, these face scanning systems to recognize who we are. So our face becomes a national ID card, and Fuji is on the cutting edge of that. In the past, football teams had sponsors, or baseball teams. Then it was named stadiums after phone companies, Southwestern Bell, Nextel. Now we have the Fuji sponsored NYPD blimp. Follow the blimp. The blimp just flew over. Yeah, follow that blimp. Don't lose it. They're using that blimp for surveillance. We always know where the protests are at. There it is, sir. Follow that blimp.
No, Luis, but what is you know I can say about it?
The guy doesn't even know.
That's nice. I want to know how you get qualified to drive the blimp.
It says Fuji and NYPD.
Yes, it does. I want to go to blimp school because I want to fly the blimp.
So is Fuji now with the police department, or are you guys renting it?
I think we're renting it. You know.
Renting the balloon?
Yeah, believe it or not, right?
I heard a story that the police, some of their helmets have cameras.
That I never heard.
I saw it on Fox.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
What about the big sound wave guns? Where are those?
Those are real. Believe it or not, I mean, those sound wave guns that were being displayed there, they are now being used not necessarily to disperse crowds, but to agitate crowds. And this has a lot to do with sound and radio wave technology to fuck with people's heads. And this was in 2004. We are now in 2020.
Did you hear about how they got the sound?
I can't comment on anything like that.
Well, it was in the newspaper.
I can't comment. I'm not allowed to comment on anything like that.
On the, what are they called? The frequencies?
I don't know what they're called.
But you can't comment on them?
No.
You're not, you can either confirm or deny?
Look at all these people protesting.
You try to find out how many of these protesters actually know what they're talking about and know what
now,
real issues
this is really what I want you all to see. Is Alex Jones attempting to interview the protesters, and this was in 2003, 2004. Take a listen, okay? This was during the Republican National Convention in New York.
We're going to now go down the road and get in front of the demonstration that's massing right now. Then it's going to march down towards Madison Square Garden. We'll be there covering it when they come marching in. Sir, what do you think about the whole official 9/11 story?
Our government appears to be to have had a lot of cooperation with the forces that caused it to happen.
Yeah.
But I'm here to tell the world that Bush is wrong. He's a liar. He's evil. He's consolidated power in a way that is
soy boy.
Bad.
Soy boy.
Now, as most of you know, we're not left-wing or right-wing. We're into freedom, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution. And whether it was Bill Clinton or George Bush, those freedoms are being destroyed. Under Bush, it's all accelerated.
I mean, look at all these people protesting. And you know,
I think if they were going to have a convention,
this was a time in which you could protest, and no matter what you protested, you weren't pounded by a mob of people, you know?
And they could have picked somewhere better than New York.
And it seems like Bush is trying to bind himself to the 9/11 tragedy. Do you have any comments on that?
I was there, and anybody that's going to try and put themselves above the people that actually help pull those people out is not worth my comment, man. I was there.
How's the convention going?
Convention's going good, no problems. Everything's good.
I heard some anarchists, though, were burning a dragon or a paper dragon.
Not over here. Everything's quiet, you know? Everything's so far so good.
What's the blimp doing?
Just keeping an eye on things, I guess.
I love being a puppet for the New World Order. They will be my slaves. I am the mini-me of Lord Bush. Oh, it feels so good. I'm enslaving them and destroying the Bill of Rights. Oh, it's so powerful. I will soon rule everything. Oh, yes.
We've been talking to a lot of the protesters, and
Now,
most of them say,
watch how the communists react just by simple questioning. Now, this should have been shown to a lot of people to try to heat us into the future that we are now in. Look at how the communists react.
Say, Bush bad, Kerry good. The problem is Bush and Kerry are cousins. Kerry's for the war. And one of the few signs that we've seen that is exposing that both of them work for the same people and are part of a false choice is this communist revolution sign. But, you know, I go back to 1958 when Eisenhower called Fidel Castro the Abraham Lincoln of Latin America.
That's because
and so
we
the
helped
problem
them.
is,
We helped
is
them.
that it was actually the big central banks at the turn of the last century that created communism as a way to try to con the serfs back into serfdom. So again, another false choice is what we have here. Bush-Kerry equals more war. I agree. They're corporate fascists. It's all true. But then the corporate fascists have funded this as their counter-revolution control valve. This is the true complexity that we're facing. And until we figure that out, we're going to lose all our freedoms, and they're going to keep winning. How you doing, ma'am?
Look at these dumb commies.
I like the top part of your sign. I agree they're all controlled. Are you a communist?
Go away.
But it says communist revolution.
I really don't want to
stop bothering this lady. What are you worried about?
What am I? I'm not.
What did you say? I didn't hear you. How can you say that?
How can I say what?
Very nasty what you just said. Did you hear what he just said? Did you hear what this guy just said? He said something terribly nasty.
That stuff doesn't work.
You know, I don't know.
This isn't the 60s. Look, he's trying to agitate.
This is not going to happen.
This doesn't work, dude.
This is not the 60s. Don't happen anymore. We're living.
Look at these dumb communists. You see this? This is how the communists interact because they know they can't debate their any substance because they have none. They've got none, so that's why they don't want to talk to anybody.
What I'm saying is, I'm saying communism. You work for the U.S. government, don't you?
This guy said over here. This guy.
I mean, this was the communists back in 2004.
Said some.
Worked for the big banks.
Oh, the big banks. This man is from the big banks. He's from Chase Manhattan.
See this? He isn't interested in information. He's actually interested in putting out disinfo.
Chase Manhattan and Citibank. And Citibank and Chase Manhattan are part of capitalism.
You see, ladies and gentlemen, this is the communist for you. All disinfo, all propaganda.
It's all part of capitalism. It's all part of capitalism, isn't it? You're a capitalist. You're a capitalist. You're a capitalist.
The U.S. government admits they put Mao in.
Capitalist.
U.S. government admits they put Mao in.
Capitalist. You're a capitalist, are you? How much money do you have on you if you're a capitalist?
I mean, this is enough communism here.
Capitalist masters.
What does a free market mean? What's a free market? How long have you been a person? How long have you been a jerk? Right. How long have you been a jerk? How long have you been a jerk? How long have you been a jerk? How long have you been a jerk?
Do what, mate?
Grow up.
Who should?
You should, asshole. Grow up.
No, I'm trying to find out. I agree with the top.
Trying to find anything. I'm trying to be a disruptive jerk. Why don't you grow up and get out of here, please?
A communist saying to grow up. How
What
ironic.
I'm saying is that the communists were actually at the beginning funded by the same people. It's all consolidation. That's all I'm saying.
Good. Thank you.
So you guys don't care about facts. It's all just disinfo.
Good. Thank you. Yeah. Sounds good to me. Thanks.
So you don't care that Stalin killed 50 million people.
So yeah. So go ahead. So what else?
So you don't care.
So who are you? Kill. How many people did you kill?
No one.
But your ideas killed millions and millions and millions. Capitalism. You're a capitalist. You're a pro-capitalist.
That's for blood, right?
She wishes we were dead, right there.
This is the one?
She's the one walking around saying she wishes we were dead.
Replay it for yourself. She clearly says that too bad Stalin didn't kill us. So we see these communists down here.
These are the
who
commies.
Say Bush, Kerry, both equal war. And we go, yeah, we agree with you. But why are you for communism? Because communism actually, as Professor Carol Quigley at Georgetown, Bill Clinton's mentor, said, was a creation of the big banks to centralize governments and con the people into a movement for the population that was really for the establishment. And they began to threaten to want to kill us. Some of it we got on tape, some of it we didn't. Hey, guys, how's it going?
He approaches more
Tell us what you
communists,
think about
young communists.
We're members of the Revolutionary Communist Youth Brigade.
Tell us what you believe in.
That's it, man. If you want to talk to us, you got to talk to us.
You got to talk to Stalin, in other words. If you want to connect an interview, we can hook you up with our spokesperson.
You're not allowed to talk yourself?
If you want an interview, you should talk to the spokesperson.
You want an interview, talk to a spokesperson, yeah?
So your leaders don't let you talk yourself?
And to think these stupid young people right here are probably leading, if not the professors, of the garbage that's happening right now as it pertains to the looting, riots, and violence that plagues Democrat cities and states in this country. All right? And like I said, this is a real reason why I wanted to show this, is that these communists, there's no dealing with these people. All right? As you can see, Alex Jones is simply trying to put a microphone in their face, trying to get their explanation on what their views are, and they refuse to even acknowledge, say anything. I mean, this is really what we're dealing with, is just completely almost cult-like stupidity. Almost cult-like stupidity.
They've never been to the Soviet Union, Poland, or anywhere in the Eastern Bloc. Look at them. They're like 18 and 20. Come on.
And you got these old... Who's that?
Why don't you talk to some mainstream Americans?
I'm talking to everybody.
Okay.
Like I say, sir.
Okay, we know where you're coming from. You're looking to
No, we're...
to make people in Lima.
No, sir. We're not mainstream media. We're actually trying to just make a documentary about all the different views that are at the convention. And everybody's been real nice to us, but communists, they always flip out when we try to talk to them. So now it is becoming an issue with them because they're so ridiculous.
I mean, do you hear him? I mean, Alex Jones is going out there trying to document everybody. I mean, that's what he was. I think he was a better documentary maker than he is a talk show host. And as you can see, now the communists is starting to become a problem, and it never stopped. It never stopped. Here's a couple of more interviews.
Commentary on all views. You're very biased. Probably work for Fox.
Yeah, I probably work for Fox. That's right.
Okay, get lost.
You only knew how ridiculous that was, sir. I've exposed George Bush for carrying out 9/11. I've exposed Bill Clinton. They all work for the globalists. And the globalists funded you little people. You guys need to wake up. Sir, a lot of New Yorkers have said, and the polls show 80% don't want Bush to have the convention here, but they're doing it. And some people say that he's being opportunistic, trying to associate himself with 9/11.
Oh, I disagree entirely. I think this is the perfect venue for Bush and the RNC.
This guy's got a Nick Dale shirt from Chippendale. Look at this. He's got a Chippendale Dale
big
shirt.
Focus in New York from the rest of America.
So what are you talking
and I think
about?
it's a
This is
perfect
great
venue, irrespective
location.
of
It's
your
New
party
York.
leanings.
Have you seen any of the protesters while you've been in town, and what do you think of them if you have?
Well, we've seen
Now,
a
by
few
the
of
way,
them.
I wanna
Mostly, of
say
course, they're
something.
kept
Hold
away
on.
from the delegates.
Now, did y'all see this woman here? Hold on. Okay, let's go back. Where are we at? We're at 2158. All right, look. Take a look at this woman
and
here.
The
Okay?
RNC to hold this event.
Because
I mean,
this
New
is
York
what
City
the old
is a
Republican
world
Party
capital
is.
place.
Okay. This is the modern day, or excuse me, this was the modern day Republican back in 2004.
Any of the
all right?
protesters while you've been in town, and what do you think of them if you have?
Well, we've seen a few of them. Mostly, of course, they're kept away from the delegates.
And you see, listen, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that, okay? I don't think there's anything wrong with yelling at a politician, giving him the finger, screaming at him. But when you're approaching him and you're approaching their personal space, and I guess now in the new world of COVID, I mean, if you're a little bit closer than 6 feet, I think that you need to back the f*** off. As you can see, this is what America is: protesting peacefully and yelling at these people that they're, whatever they are, whatever they, hey, you're trash, whatever. Not conducting violence, being imbeciles, etc.
But to me, they're not New Yorkers. There's people that have come in and are trying to make New Yorkers look bad. They're a bunch of young kids. I'm wondering how many of those that are out there protesting, one, know what they're voting about, what they're protesting about, and two, are they going to even vote when it comes to...
I want to be honest with you. That's why I liked this the first hour of this documentary, because Alex Jones goes up to a microphone and people could actually explain and express their grievance. It isn't like today, dude. Today, you put a camera and a microphone in these kids' faces, and they don't know what the they're talking about. They stumble and mumble over their own tongue. They don't know why they're there. They're regurgitating talking points that some talking head on the TV says, and it's pathetic, all right?
The line.
A lot of them are good people and have some legitimate issues, and I've seen people who aren't doing anything, whole streets just scooped up and arrested, and then they brought them out to the dock out there in an old condemned building with asbestos, it's admitted, and have 2,000 of them in there, no air conditioning, and cages inside a kind of a Guantanamo camp.
Now, this is unfortunate because most of these protests at this particular convention, it was a Republican National Convention at New York. I mean, there was a very small, limited amount of even violent activity. All those folks that were in that asbestos-filled old bus depot were just kind of picked at random. And this is what gave fervor. I hate to say this, but this gives fervor to the anti-police movement that has currently plagued the minds of Americans today.
You know, I don't know of any of those issues and facts. If you're going to protest and you know there's a lot of security, this is just not the way to do it. Protest in another venue other than this.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
that's very American, you dumb old. All right, very American. Yeah, go out there and don't protest. Protest somewhere else.
Firmly believe in the right to protest, but this is just not a good place to do it. We've had too much problems in this city to bring more problems to this city.
Using September 11th for a reason as a selling point.
This nation was scared to death when those towers went down.
The term for it is called waving the bloody shirt.
I thought it was manipulative.
Get people, appealing to people's emotions rather than their reason.
I think they took advantage of a bad situation.
So why are you out here?
I'm from California. And
now,
helping your documentary.
Listen to this guy, okay? This guy, I believe, is a preacher. And he is a very right-wing conservative. And just take a look at this guy in 2004.
We're here to protest the protesters. We're here to tell them they're just a bunch of leftist ingrates who are taking advantage of living in America. America is free because people have bled for this country. And we want a strong America, much like we want a strong police department, or we're going to have thugs ruling the streets. We want a strong police, which keeps it safe. We want a strong military, which keeps a good country. Yeah, the same Bible that the president is going to put his hand on that says no same-sex marriage. What are you doing hanging around a bunch of right-wing Christians? What are you guys doing hanging around us? This isn't Berkeley, pal. This isn't Berkeley, buddy.
You can't spell Berkeley.
How can they leave the borders wide open but then take our liberties?
I'm all for closing the borders. Are you kidding? I'm from California. Our hospitals are costing us $80 for an aspirin because illegal aliens are going into our hospitals. I don't understand what the word is.
Well, why hasn't Bush done something?
Well, I would like to see him do a lot more with stopping those people from coming over our borders. I don't know what the word illegal and illegal alien means if we don't stop them. America is a great country. We annihilate our enemies. Would you please get that dog out of here? There are homosexuals here in New York. You're liable to think that's a gerbil on steroids. Let's be more sensitive. Where's PETA when you really need him?
If those people are going to be in heaven back there, if those people are the ones who have armaments on their poster and everything, if they're going to be in heaven, I'm ready to go to hell.
This New York is a good example, folks, of what you're going to get in your city, this complete control grid, this locked down city where everything is commercialized, whereas you did that bit on your show where they know what you're going to eat before you're going to eat it. You hear about those guys, thought criminals. They're going to blow up something.
Thought criminals. Now, didn't we just see something on Shadowgate by Millie Weaver in which this technology is already there? That's why Amazon knows what you want to buy, what you're going to buy before you even do it. Same thing with all these other data mining people out here that are data mining for everything we purchase, everything we consume, everything we like, everything we visit, etc. Dude, I got to give it to Alex Jones and his documentary work. I mean, it's very underrated, and it's a shame that he doesn't promote this more often. It's sad.
They have no weapons. Well, and this is the thing, Alex. A lot of these people down here, they want democracy, and it's amazing how they've been conditioned to ask for their own enslavement. It's all they know. They don't understand this is a republic. Look at all of this. I mean, you'd think these people were very informed.
Explain the difference between a republic and democracy.
Well, I mean, basically, the democracy is mob rule, and what these people don't understand is that if 51%, whether they're corporate, whether they're Bushites, whether they're Mexicans, decide their fate, then so be it. That's what they're asking for.
That guy was pretty woke, because he's exactly right. Because that's what people that are protesting out here are protesting for. Mob rule, democracy. If you break down democracy in the root words of it, it means mob rule. I believe it means mob rule in Latin. And what this country is a constitutional republic. And the reason it's a constitutional republic is because our forefathers knew about democracy. They understood the dangers of democracy. They knew that 51% of the people could enslave and control 49% of the people under democracy. So, in my personal view, our forefathers were geniuses in making sure that we were a representative republic, so that if we had dense populations, which we do in the cities, they aren't the ones choosing the leaders for everybody in the country. Brilliant, and our forefathers were very smart. Anyway, we're moving on.
We're in New York, ladies and gentlemen. Streets are jammed. My friend just called me, and he's right there with Michael Moore right now. I mean, I'm on 10 minutes. I want to say.
Tell me.
Now, I'm gonna end it right. Oh, excuse me.
That's awesome. Thanks.
I'm gonna end it right after this attempt. And let me tell you something. Prior to Alex Jones becoming this big radio host, when he was a documentary guy, he had a hard-on for Michael Moore. And what I mean by that, he wanted to discredit him. He didn't believe that Michael Moore deserved the clout. He did, and I agree, he didn't deserve the money, etc. Here he attempts to try to question Michael Moore, and it's very interesting the response he gives Alex Jones.
Michael Moore is inside there.
Now we're going to answer a question. Did Michael Moore expose the truth about 9/11, or did he whitewash it?
Now, I want to be honest with you. If you've not watched Fahrenheit 9/11, I think Fahrenheit 9/11 by Michael Moore was the biggest scam he ever posted as a documentary. It slow rode, very fragmented, very not necessarily very good information, and most of it was already out there public. But let Alex Jones break this down.
You know, George Bush has said that anybody that has any connections to Al-Qaeda, should be arrested. Well, no one has greater connections to the Saudis and the House of bin Laden than the Bushes. They've been in business together for decades. George Bush actually started his first oil company way back in 1976 with a member of the bin Laden family.
Bin Laden's
and with their
brother.
funds. The Bushes used them to go after the Soviets.
Dude.
Back in the 1980s.
Listen, you see this Carlyle group? You know that Bush Sr. was meeting with the bin Laden family and others within the Carlyle group on the day of the 9/11 attacks? Isn't it ironic?
And bin Laden, according to a Senate report, was actually used to attack the Serbs back in the late 1990s. So when the Serbs fought back, they could say, oh, look, see, they're a bunch of terrorists. We've got to go in and take out the Serbs. My friends, the government had complete and total prior knowledge of the horrible events that happened here. And at the bare minimum, they allowed this tragedy to take place as a pretext to scare the population into total abject fear and then submission. In his film Fahrenheit 9/11, Michael Moore doesn't even talk about things that MSNBC and the Associated Press have reported on. That Osama bin Laden's code name in the CIA was Tim Osman. That he was a CIA asset trained in the 1970s and used against the Russians in the 1980s in Afghanistan. Then, of course, he helped against the Serbs in the late 1990s. Over and over again, Osama bin Laden has been used as a tool of the U.S. government and its interest. Anytime they need to create a crisis.
And by the way, bin Salman, the crown prince, he is attempting to consolidate power. And who, during the Great Purge, I think you need to read about this, in which the crown prince bin Salman arrested most of the Wahhabists that were doing all this shit with George Bush and the CIA and all this shit during 9/11. He tried to arrest all the Wahhabists that were a part of this whole cabal between the George Bush Senior CIA. As a matter of fact, the intelligence, the head of Saudi intelligence, Bandar, Prince Bandar, they used to call him Bandar Bush because he would always be with the Bushes, for Christ's sake. This is the kind of situation we had during the whole 9/11 and the war on civilizations, etc. Now, Trump attempted to go out there and kind of renew a whole new pact because, well, believe it or not, the bin Salman regime doesn't agree with Wahhabism. And what ended up happening is that bin Salman arrested most of his family that were the Wahhabis. He arrested everybody, dude. He arrested Prince Bandar. He arrested the bin Laden family. He arrested the crown prince that tried to give Giuliani some big check during 9/11, and Giuliani told him, "F you," I forgot that prince's name. He put in jail most of his family. Unfortunately, that has made him a little bit weak as it pertains to his reign of power, because he thought that he would be able to not only arrest all these people, but also kill adversaries like Khashoggi. And the reason he killed Khashoggi was because Khashoggi was hired by the Washington Post, which is a CIA operation. And if you don't believe me, Jeff Bezos owns Washington Post. And Jeff Bezos actually, before the contract got renegotiated, and that's why Amazon's going to court with the United States government, he was the cloud services for the intelligence agencies. If you subcontract or do some kind of work with the CIA, you are the CIA.
Anywhere on the planet, bin Laden comes to their rescue as the fire starter they need.
And by the way, speaking on Khashoggi, Khashoggi was on the Washington Post discrediting the bin Salman regime, trying to make them out as tyrants and all this other bullshit. And the reason why is bin Salman helped the Mujahideen, created Osama bin Laden. I mean, he was a devout Wahhabist Muslim. And in his articles, if you go take a look at Khashoggi's articles, he criticizes the bin Salman regime by saying that they're becoming too secular. You know, I mean, and that's what really bin Salman's trying to do. He's trying to eliminate this whole constrictive type of fundamentalist Wahhabism that has plagued Saudi Arabia. And because of that, you know, it's kind of hindered his timeline, because you've got a lot of folks that are still part of the family. Remember, the whole goddamn royal family is a family, okay? So the people that he jailed were his family members. And you've got these guys that are million and billionaires that are arrested, that still have friends on the outside that are trying to do shit to Saudi Arabia. I think one of the things that you need to look at is the Houthis and the technology that they're able to get to be able to launch drone attacks and missile attacks into Riyadh and other parts of Saudi Arabia. That isn't an accident. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, here.
The crisis so they can offer their solution. Or why didn't he talk about the huge 9/11 truth movement that sprung up right after 9/11, made up of hundreds of the victims' families of September 11th, alleging government involvement in the attacks? Why didn't the film talk about the official U.S. government plan?
Because
to carry
Michael
out terror
Moore's a
attacks
part
in
of it,
America
dude.
And blame it on
Michael Moore is a part of it. All right, he's a part of the establishment now. He was always a part of it. I mean, now that he could feed his fat ass and be an absolute hypocrite in claiming that he's an anti-capitalist, even though he's sitting in a multi-million-dollar home, even though he owns stock, even though he has millions and millions of dollars in the bank, he comes out every 4 years or every 2 years whenever there's an election and talks bad about capitalism. He's a hypocrite. Anybody who thinks Michael Moore is a hero is a moron.
On foreign enemies. Operation Northwoods. It even called for hijacking jets by remote control and crashing them, bombing D.C., committing sniper attacks. No, Michael Moore didn't discuss this. Something ABC News and the Baltimore Sun were willing to do, Michael Moore wouldn't get near. Or did you know that it's admitted fact that public officials, federal, state, and local across the land were called by the White House in the days before 9/11 and told not to fly to New York?
This is absolutely
11th?
True. All right. Now, he's going to talk about some of the people that got the call. One guy that I know, and I saw an interview with him, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Geraldo Rivera that was interviewing this guy on CNBC when Geraldo still had a show over there before Fox made him sell his soul. Because believe it or not, you know who was the big influencer in the late 90s on CNBC? It was Geraldo. Geraldo Rivera. I'm not even joking around. He got all the big interviews, got all political. And you know what Fox News did to try to eliminate his liberal influence? They gave him I think it was $15 million or $20 million. An absurd amount of money. All right? So that he could leave CNBC in prime time and go to Fox. And guess what Fox did to him? They put him on the weekend at 2 in the morning. They put him on the weekend at 2 in the morning. Anyway, I'm digressing here. Geraldo was interviewing the then San Francisco mayor, Willie Brown. And I remember this interview like it was yesterday. Willie Brown claimed in that interview, the guy that Kamala Harris had to fuck so that she could become the district attorney. Anyway, Willie Brown, a black man, he said that he got a call prior to 9/11 telling him not to go to New York or Washington. And when Geraldo asked him, who called you, he claims it was Condoleezza Rice. And what's really mind-boggling, and when I heard that, I was like, why isn't this mainstream news? How is this not mainstream news that Willie Brown is claiming? And you can interview him, you can ask him. He will admit to you that he got a call prior to 9/11, and he claimed it was from Condoleezza Rice telling him not to go. Anyway, let me continue. I'm just trying to give you guys a little bit of 411. So if you're trying to go along with the documentary, that these are actually things that happen.
Mayor Willie Brown of San Francisco was called by the White House and told, don't fly to New York on the morning of September 11th. He was called September 10th. Just a few weeks before September 11th, stopped flying commercial, citing a hijacker risk. Most shocking of all, the Joint Chiefs of Staff had a scheduled meeting in New York City on September 11th. But the day before, because of a, quote, warning, they canceled their trip to New York City. They even told MSNBC this.
So that's why
somewhat of a
the reason Alex Jones is going over this is to suggest why Michael Moore didn't add this to his movie. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I actually went and saw this movie in the theaters, and I was highly disappointed. I'll tell you that.
Secret, and Michael Moore isn't talking about it. Author Salman Rushdie was warned by the FAA not to fly to New York on the morning of September 11th.
And why does Salman Rushdie get this kind of props, dude? How come Salman Rushdie gets an FAA call saying, hey, Salman, you might not want to go flying because, or whatever the it was. And for all those that don't know who Salman Rushdie is, believe it or not, he's got a fatwa on his life because he wrote something called the Satanic Verses in reference to Islam. And Islam never forgot it. And you had clerics that have given a lifelong fatwa to kill Salman Rushdie. So just to let you know who the hell that guy is.
It was reported by the Times of London We have the San Francisco Chronicle, MSNBC, the Associated Press reporting all of this. But still, the average American has been kept in the dark because it's never made the nightly news, and it's certainly never been talked about by Michael Moore. And there was no mention of the fact that NORAD stood down for the first time in its 50-year history.
This is an absolute fact. NORAD stood down in the first time in its history. As a matter of fact, there is testimony by the then transportation secretary. He was an Asian man. And during 9/11, he testified that he asked the vice president, because NORAD had stood down, if they need to scramble up or we need to change the directive. And he quotes, and he testified, Cheney looked at him and said, "Did I say anything was changed or needed to be changed?" I'm not even joking around. That's on YouTube if you want to take a look at it.
To their credit, something that Michael Moore and the mainstream
So it was
media
technically
did get right,
it was technically Cheney that was in command. Let's put it that way.
Was that in the 3 days after September 11th, 2001, over 160 members of Osama bin Laden's family were flown out of the country to Saudi Arabia.
This is an absolute fact. I mean, this was actually broadcasted on national television. Believe it or not, for the first time in American aviation history, the government forced every plane to land. So our airspace was completely empty after 9/11. Yet, George Bush Jr. allowed private jets to go pick up all of the bin Laden extended family that lived in this country and got them the fuck out of here. These are absolute facts. You could research that right now in a Google search.
This at a time when all commercial and private air traffic was grounded by the Pentagon. But that wasn't the only airlift. Seymour Hersh first broke the story at the New Yorker magazine about the airlift of evil. It was then picked up by major publications, but, well, forgotten into the memory hole.
Yeah. We, or the United States military, just conveniently threw cargo planes of Taliban, Afghanistan, Pakistan fighters into Afghanistan.
At the end of the 3-week-long Afghan war in Afghanistan, 8,000 Taliban and Al-Qaeda leaders were loaded on U.S. government C-130s and flown out to Pakistan to safety. It had been their job to stir up the phony crisis in Afghanistan and then give George W. the fake victory. You see, it was a staged war. And this is one of the other big smoking guns of 9/11 government involvement that we're all supposed to forget about. Oh, the government admits they flew him out to safety, but Fox News said it was an accident. Yes, 8,000.
It was an
Taliban
accident.
and Al-Qaeda.
It was an accident. We just accidentally just flew 8,000 jihadi Talibanis into Pakistan. It was an accident.
The leaders being flown out to safety. And top generals were told to release Taliban generals. They were told, let them go. And some of the generals got angry and went public. The FBI has gone public, as well as the CIA. They've even leaked the orders, like W199I, where George Bush ordered them to back off Osama bin Laden and his family. In fact, they even fired some agents that refused to follow their orders. There were red flags everywhere. Everyone knew that the attack was coming. That's why so many public officials didn't go to New York. But months before, there was the Bush administration frustrating the investigations, ordering the agents off the cases, ensuring that the attacks would go forward. Then there were the media reports by respected institutions, backed up by hospital officials at the American hospital in Dubai, Pakistan, of Osama bin Laden meeting with the CIA Middle East section chief for 10 days in July of 2001, months before September 11th. The question is, what was the CIA doing meeting with Osama bin Laden?
Well, and you know, this CIA supposed meeting, it was documented. Believe it or not, the July 2001 date that Alex Jones just mentioned, this guy, bin Laden, was interviewed by CNN of all people. And by the way, the guy from CNN who interviewed him is not only become a terrorist expert, but he's now, I believe, the commissioner of the NYPD, if I'm not mistaken.
getting their story straight? Well, look, 2.5 years ago, I said that Bush was in business with the bin Ladens. Now, FBI agents have gone on C-SPAN and said it. Okay? I mean, it was in the Miami newspapers that they were flying the bin Ladens out. And I'd read it on my radio show, and people call it a conspiracy. It was in the Miami newspapers 2 days after 9/11. They got photos of them flying the bin Ladens out of the country when you and I were not allowed to fly. Bush and his family got their first money for Bush's Arbusto oil down in Texas from the bin Laden family. FBI agent Robert Wright at the National Press Club went up there and said, I've been threatened with arrest. If I tell you what I know, here's a letter from the Justice Department. All I can tell you is the Bushes vacation with the bin Ladens. How many of you know that the supposed hijackers, it turned out 7 of them are still alive? That's the BBC.
These are facts.
So there we were in New
These
York just wanting to talk to Michael Moore and ask him, why didn't you talk about these really important issues, these central issues? And in between his bodyguards coming over and shoving on us and telling us not to videotape him through the window, we began to realize that Michael Moore really does George Bush a favor. In his film, he acts like Bush is just some idiot who accidentally allowed 9/11 to happen.
He's
because
hungry.
He was on too many vacations, out fishing too much. Oh, no, that wasn't the reality. The reality is Bush and his corporate interest stood to gain from 9/11. And Michael Moore is covering up those facts.
Yes, he is.
And you don't want to let him eat, and once he eats, you can take a picture. Do you like your phone ringing when you're eating dinner?
I'm not calling it.
In reality, Mr. Moore had just completed his photo op for just a few minutes, marching at the head of the parade.
Look at that
with
photo
other
op.
Genuine
Look at that
establishment
photo
libs
op.
like
What a
Jesse
bunch of
Jackson.
crap.
Then he ducked into
I mean,
the
give
taco
me a
barrel,
break.
had the general public thrown out, and began, well, gobbling. And I wonder what he was thinking while he was eating. Man, are they going to catch on to me as the hours went by? Are they going to find out that I'm really a fake and a corporate shill that flies around in a corporate jet? All those years I chased the corporate bigwigs around and was thrown out of office buildings and stood outside restaurants, and now I've become what I always said I hated. Or maybe I was always what I claimed I hated.
You're damn right.
Yes, Mr. Moore, we have nothing against you.
Now, listen
you
to
made a
what
film
Moore
where you claimed that you
says
exposed George
as he
Bush.
comes out of
You
this
gave
taco
him aid
bar,
and
all right?
comfort. You covered up the reality.
Listen to
of
what Michael Moore says.
premeditated
It's
involvement
subtitled as well.
in 9/11, and played into that popular little folky image of Bush the idiot elf. Bush is a puppet for a hardcore global crime syndicate setting up a world government and turning America into a high-tech police state. But I guess, though, it won't matter to people like you. You'll have a fake war to fight, while all the time you're truly covering up the real political paradigm.
Did he already sneak out?
All right, here he
Out
comes.
that way?
He's gone.
All right, Alex tries to ask him, why aren't you covering the big issues of 9/11? And what's the response by this fat?
Hey, Michael, why don't you talk about NORAD standing down? Why don't you talk about NORAD standing down, Michael? Why not the really hardcore 9/11 issues?
Because that would be un-American. Because that would be un-American. Did you hear this? That is the response given by a fat piece of shit that is claiming to be virtuous, that is claiming to be leftist and loving people and all this other crap, all right? Unbelievable. Anyway, we're going to end it there. I think I played something that a lot of people liked, all right?